There are astronauts, and there are euphonauts.
Warning, the following material may not be suitable for all audiences. Please listen responsibly.
Facility in Area 51.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Now at least we can draw upon what a black program is. And if you're following this new NBC series, the event, you can understand, I think, Michael, you'll probably agree with me, that past presidents and current presidents don't even know or have access to what is going on in these black programs.
Absolutely. And Jesse, I want to throw this out there. Not sure if your listening audience is aware of this, but do you personally know what that reverse E stands for in the event logo?
No, sir.
Okay. It turns out that that is a mathematical constant, and what that mathematical constant means is this is true, this is established.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay, well, let's lay the groundwork here. There's the project that we're going to talk about tonight is called Aquarius, right? Now, the first question I want to ask about is, how did you hear about the project before we even get into Dan Burisch? How did you hear about Project Aquarius?
I heard about Project Aquarius years ago, perhaps like other researchers as well. I didn't have a full understanding of what that terminology meant. And then about 6 months ago, when I met with Dr. Dan Burisch and Marcia McDowell, we had gone over the material. We made an agreement to do this subject justice because visual aids were never put together with this story. And so that was the genesis of this whole project.
Okay, and how did you search out Burisch and get a hold of him?
Well, I'm associated with Open Minds. Our website is openminds.tv, and everything that I'll be talking about tonight is coming directly from Dan Burisch. I didn't make up any of this material whatsoever.
So let's talk a little bit about Dan as a person, because we talked about this offline. I've spoken to George Knapp about Dan. He's looked into his case. He doesn't think he's credible. You've looked into the case, and we're talking about a gentleman who makes some amazing claims, but we also talked about how much information is available that he puts out there. I mean, we're talking about pages upon pages of detail. If you're interested offline, as you just brought up, we're going to send you where you can read this stuff. But I took a look at it, and it looks like he's giving you the nuts and bolts. So let's give this audience, before we go to a break, the nuts, I guess the 30-second elevator pitch of what Dan Burisch is trying to expose and talk about with Aquarius. We'll take a break, and then we'll go deeper into it.
Right. Interesting. What I would say before we begin, if I may, is I just want to shoot out 3 quick things.
Sure.
You'll recall in the history accounts in the historical literature that in the 1800s, they said that man would never fly, but then on December 17th, 1903, the Wright brothers proved that wrong at Kill Devil Hills in North Carolina. So that, Kitty Hawk, North Carolina.
Right.
We found out that we could fly. Then they said that man would never break the sound barrier. Of course, we know that Chuck Yeager broke the sound barrier on October the 14th, 1947. Then finally, they said that mankind would never land on the moon. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin landed on the moon on July 20th, 1969. So all I'm asking is, for just once, we suspend our disbelief and give this gentleman the benefit of the doubt. Go through the free document that you graciously put the link up for. Allow people to read through this document kind of as we go along here, and then they can draw their own conclusions. That's the only thing I'm asking.
I think that's fair enough, and I always try to do that with folks. Like I said, sometimes they get burned on it. I got burned on it with Ed Dames locally in here in Portland, where he's supposed to come here and show me where Kyron Horman is located. Unfortunately, he never did, and he told me remote viewing would solve this case. Obviously, it did not. But let's get into Burisch's main claim. He claims that he was what? He was a employee at Area 51 S4, correct?
Okay, yes, let's get into it. First, we should mention here that Dan Burisch has a PhD in microbiology that is from the State University of New York, Stony Brook. He has a Bachelor of Science in Biological Sciences from the University of Las Vegas. So that's his professional background. He started working at Area S4, and we're making this very brief here and condensed. Started working at Area S4 back in 1994, and that is located 12 miles south of Area 51, just to get people, acclimated to where this facility is before. Of course, Bob Lazar came out with some of this information back in '89, so most people should be familiar with some of this material.
Yeah, we don't have time for rehash. In fact, hold that thought. We're going to get into Burisch, and we're going to get knee-deep into what this guy is claiming. Alien relationships in the desert of northern Nevada? Who knows? This is Ufonaut Radio on Cape Ham 860. Don't go anywhere. Back with Michael Schratt on the line here. Michael, welcome back to the program. When we left off here, where we left off was we were just getting into Burisch. He claimed he was working at S4. Why did he decide to come forward, and what were some of the biggest claims that he made that really sent shockwaves through the UFO community?
Sure. He decided to come forward because he was given authorization by members of Majestic 12. Now, this is from his testimony. Members from Majestic 12 to go ahead and release this information to the public domain. And the most incredible claim of all this is that for a significant period of time, he worked with an extraterrestrial by the name of J-Rod at the S4 facility in a location called a clean sphere, which is on the level 4-5 portion of Area S4. That is the biggest claim in a nutshell of this whole story.
Okay, and the J-Rod, J-ROD, what did that stand for, if anything?
J-Rod was one of 3 extraterrestrials that crashed. Now, this is according to Dan Burisch.
Understood. At
the Kingman, Arizona crash back in 1953. One of them died on impact. One was sent to Los Alamos, and then the extraterrestrial that Dan Burisch worked with was sent to Area S4.
It's a pretty crazy claim to many, but not really within the ufology community, because they know about these crashes and they know that there was definitely intelligent life piloting these vehicles. So Burisch comes forward with this. What is the initial reaction through the community, and did he explain why he was coming forward? Was there an event pending, or did he just decide to do a Lazar here?
Interesting question. I believe he has been given a hostile response from the general public. It has not been a very user-friendly response. People just, for some reason, they don't want to accept what's been going on here. They don't want to accept what Dan has put forth. They never really gave the gentleman the benefit of the doubt. I found him to be a person of dignity, honor, and respect. So that's from my personal experience. I'm aware of the claims on the Internet. I think a lot of them are unfounded. They've never really looked at the material, and that's just what I would say.
Well, again, this is a gentleman, and correct me if I'm wrong, no movie deal, all right? He's not running around trying to do another Taken. He's not working with Spielberg. He's not trying to get a New Line deal. I haven't seen a book from him. So he's not making a bunch of money from this, folks. Most of what I've seen coming from this gentleman has been for free. And for some reason, Lazar has been embraced by the diehards. His story rings true to many. I being one of them. My gut tells me that he worked there.
Right.
So I guess go ahead.
Yeah. I would just say, in fact, if you may be interested in note that Bob Lazar is very well aware of Dan Burisch. And, in fact, Bob Lazar has actually made some not so polite comments regarding Dan. And what I found interesting is Dan did not return fire for fire. He kept things on a business-like environment and did not, go back at Bob Lazar.
He didn't want to debate with him.
He held back, and he was a dignified individual, which I respected, actually.
I do, too. And so let's break this down, because Lazar worked on back engineering hardware at Area 51. Crashed disks that had been recovered, he worked to back engineer the technology to try to figure out how these things ticked and how we could utilize them to blow up people in the sand and do other terrible things to other people around the globe, probably. But Burisch
essentially
is more it's a lot different. His story is a lot more, I would like to say, how should I explain it, possibly describe it as scary, because he actually claims he had a relationship that goes into utilizing telepathy and messages, communication with a being from another world. Let's talk about the kind of communication that he had with this J-Rod and what kind of messages he received from him. I know that's a lot, but let's give it an overview if we can.
Sure. I totally agree. Personally, I cannot confirm 100% that this story is real.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any physical evidence to prove it, and nobody else within the public domain has that either. I don't have a piece of the craft that J-Rod came in. I don't have access to the training update tapes that were involved in this. So, again, it cannot be proved 100%. But
understood.
What I do want to comment on very quickly here is the oppressive level of security at Area S4. Just very briefly, this includes armed guards, optical scans, voice print identification, showering, weighing, shaving, and decontamination. So when you take on a job at S4, and if this story is true, which Dan Burisch is presenting that it is, it's the biggest story in millennium. We're talking about mankind's personal interaction with an extraterrestrial over a series of many months and years. So this is a very significant account.
Absolutely. So take us into some of the meat here, Michael. What kind of things did Dan speak to this? And first of all, we didn't get to what J-Rod possibly stood for, did we? Did you explain that to us?
Okay. I want to kind of follow our line of reasoning here. There are two outfits that are running this whole program.
Okay.
We talked about the defense contractors. So one is the Naval Research Laboratory. Okay. That's the organization that cuts the checks for people who work on Project Aquarius. Okay. And that was confirmed also by Bob Lazar.
Absolutely.
When his W-2 came back, it was the U.S. Department of Naval Research Laboratory. Then we have the Defense Intelligence Agency. So these are the two primary outfits that are running the program. Now, when you get to McCarran International Airport, I want to, paint a picture for people so they can, get an idea of what this looks like, and you can follow along and see the visual aids in the document here. You are taken to McCarran International Airport. You're taken to the EG&G facility. That's their building, also the Janet Terminal. There you board a 737-200 with light aircraft with a red stripe. Now, as you're flying, Dan said that the interior is a gray slate interior, and the seating arrangement is quarantined via what program you're working on.
Okay.
Just sit anywhere. You are quarantined to your organization. This, Jesse, I found was very interesting, this next point, and no one's ever talked about this. Bob Lazar never talked about this. This is the first time I've ever heard about it. When you're flying on the Janet Airlines from McCarran to Area 51, there is a very interesting song that is piped over the public address system. Do you have any idea what that song is, Jesse?
I'm guessing it's not Metallica. Sanitarium? No, nothing like that. Okay, go for it. What would it be?
It is Neil Diamond's Coming to America.
All right, Dylan just guessed Kenny Loggins, so he lost two. Neil Diamond, Coming to America. And what's the significance?
What is the significance of that? Well, I'm not going to sing it, but, it says coming to America everywhere around the world. They're coming to it from far away, And if you think about the symbolic encrypted metaphor of what they're trying to say here is originally that song was indicative of immigrants coming to America to get a better life for themselves. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, if you put that context...
Hang on, Mike. Don't go...
facility than Area 51.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Now at least we can draw upon what a black program is. And if you're following this new NBC series, The Event, you can understand, I think, Michael, you'll probably agree with me, that past presidents and current presidents don't even know or have access to what is going on in these black programs.
Absolutely. And Jesse, I want to throw this out there. Not sure if your listening audience is aware of this, but do you personally know what that reverse E stands for?
About tonight is called Aquarius, right? Now, the first question I want to ask about is, how did you hear about the project before we even get into Dan Burisch? How did you hear about Project Aquarius?
I heard about Project Aquarius years ago, perhaps like other researchers as well. I didn't have a full understanding of what that terminology meant. And then about 6 months ago when I met with the event logo.
No, sir.
Okay. It turns out that that is a mathematical constant. And what that mathematical constant means is this is true, this is established.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay, well, let's lay the groundwork here. There's the project we're going to talk about.
There are astronauts, and there are euphonauts.
Warning. The following material may not be suitable for all audiences. Please listen responsibly.